Welcome to MissouriNet.com. I'm Bill Pollock. You know what? I think Mizzou fans, you might be able to pat yourselves on the back a little bit. You could maybe take some credit for being the program that brought down the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, for South Carolina. Joining us is Kevin McCrarey from SportsTalkSC.com, South Carolina Radio Network. I say that kind of jokingly, though, but a big announcement. You guys were all over it yesterday. Steve Spurrier saying that he's not retiring. This is more of a resignation. Kevin, being someone that follows him on a daily basis, and you've seen the team and the struggles early on, was this something that you saw coming, or did it still catch you by surprise?
No, I got to tell you, I did see this coming. We were talking about this a lot on Sports Talk. In fact, a week ago, last Monday, I said on the air that this is a man that expect any day for this guy to announce that he's done. And that's just his personality. And he's always said, if it goes bad, you're not going to ever see me get fired. I'll walk away. And before the Missouri game, the week of the Missouri game, on his Tuesday press conference, that's when it hit me that this guy is disengaging. He's about finished here. He was saying before that game, this isn't an offense that I built. I'm not calling the plays. I'm letting some other guys that know more about this kind of offense call the plays. And Steve Spurrier has always been a guy that would be the first to tell you what he loves about football. What he's always loved is calling ball plays, going to the ballpark, as he would put it, and calling ball plays. And he said, if I get to a point where I can't call the plays or I can't keep up with things, I'll be done. And he reached that point. And did I expect him to leave in the middle of the season and just not finish out the string? I can't say that I thought that, but I'm not surprised because in his mind, if he's not part of the solution and he can't fix it, then he's going to get out of the way and let somebody else get in there. And that's just Steve Spurrier to a T. People say he quit on his team. He did the same thing that any athlete or anybody would really do. If you realize you don't have it anymore, you're done. And he just didn't see any point in standing around out there and just being some kind of figurehead for people to stare at on the sideline. He was ready to leave. So it didn't surprise me. And he is retired. He's just facing his own mortality right now because he knows he's not going to coach again. Unlike with the Redskins, where he knew he's going to coach again. Now he knows he's not going to be a college football coach again. He might go to Crescent Beach, Florida, and find a high school team to work with, but he is exiting stage right in terms of being the head ball coach in college football.
He took quite a bit of criticism for quitting, and that's the way that I saw a lot of people point that out. But you know what? I do give him credit, because I think if he felt it was the right time to go, I think really he's doing a disservice to the team if he's still hanging on. And like he said, I think it was Ray Tanner, the athletic director, or somebody had asked him to maybe stay along through the season. He says, you know what, it's going to be counterproductive if I'm here and people know that I'm on my way out. You just got to move forward and turn the page. So in that respect, I give him some credit.
Yeah, and I can say this. I covered the end of the Lou Holtz era here at South Carolina, and he made it known that he was leaving at the end of the season with a few games left, and he completely lost his team. Players, when they know this guy's not coming back, it's just like if you're a boss at a company and all the employees know you're gone at the end of the month, you're not really going to be able to tell them what to do and expect them to pay a lot of attention to you. His era ended with a big brawl against Clemson where he had no control of his players and they're out there fighting on the field, and that was his final game. And Spurrier alluded to that and knew that there is no point in him standing there. And the other thing that he does in this circumstance is from his assistant standpoint, and he's very loyal, almost to a fault, to some of his assistants, that maybe they should have done some more. There's a reason why this program's where it is right now, and it's because Spurrier made mistakes. But this gives those guys a chance to coach for a job, maybe not a job in Columbia with the Gamecocks, but a job, their next job. It gives them a chance to kind of audition, look for some things. It gives the program and Ray Tanner ample opportunity to look out there and find a new coach. And everybody knows that they don't have to speculate. They know that job's open, and recruits know. So you can figure out, okay, these guys are all leaving. They're not going to find out in late November, and 2 weeks or 2 months before signing day. They're going to find out now, so we can recruit guys that are going to be into this program and know that they're going to be here, rather than scrambling at the last minute. So it really, from a big picture standpoint, Steve Spurrier did South Carolina a favor. A lot of coaches hang around and think they can turn it around when in reality they're not. And the program continues to slide. Spurrier saw it sliding and said, okay, it might keep sliding, but I'm going to step out of the way so they can stop the slide and start the rebuild process.
We're talking with Kevin McCrarey from the South Carolina Radio Network and sportstalksc.com. They have a weekly talk show, or nightly talk show for a couple of hours every night, Monday through Friday. And, you talk about that with the recruits, and you guys covered a lot of recruiting down there in South Carolina, but, the other teams in that division, Missouri, Georgia, really the SEC, I mean, this would be an opportunity for them to kind of get the claws out and maybe pluck some of these kids away, though, too. So how does this affect recruiting? Is this the right direction to take by getting out of there quick? And even though things are up in the air, does this, from what you're hearing from recruits, has this changed their mind or swayed them in a negative light to South Carolina?
Yeah, they're going to lose some guys. There's no question that they're going to lose some guys that were committed. But you know what, Bill, they already have. Last year, there was speculation about Spurrier hanging it up the way the season was going, and he would not answer the question throughout the season. Are you going to be back? We'll talk about that later. And it left this cloud of uncertainty that lingered for days to weeks to months. And then he made the comment at the end of the season, after the final game, I'll be back next year, maybe a year after that. And recruits started bailing, and they had a top 5 class at one point. This time last year, they were sitting on a top 5 recruiting class. By the time the dust settled, all of the best pieces to that class went elsewhere, to LSU or Clemson or Georgia or Florida. They lost some really big pieces to that class. So recruiting had already been slipping here for a couple of years. And that's why this team, the reason why they have 2 wins right now, the reason why they'll finish with 3 or 4 tops is because they've had issues with recruiting that need to be addressed. But you cannot address those with a 70-year-old coach that is on the cusp of retiring at any given moment, which we saw. He was on the cusp, and he exited stage right. So, yeah, their recruiting has been suffering for a while because of the uncertainty, and Spurrier has not handled that properly. And he acknowledged that yesterday. He said recruiting was part of the problem, and that's why he was a liability recruiting, and he needed to leave. So that's another good reason why he's gone. Now, there's still uncertainty because we don't know who the next coach is going to be, but at least people know that it's not going to be Steve Spurrier now. They don't have to speculate.
Well, and, maybe some recruits that were on the fence or maybe were kind of pushing South Carolina towards the side, they might say, well, you know what, now let me see who they bring in. So maybe it gets some of those recruits kind of back into it and say, well, all right, let me see what they're going to do. And then I can make a decision, at least keep them in the running. A lot of people are going to look at Steve Spurrier, remember him for his time and what he did at Florida. But where will he go down in terms of his legacy at South Carolina? Because I thought he did some great things there.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. In 100 years of football before Steve Spurrier arrived, they had one 10-win season, and he won 11 games 3 straight years. He won 33 games in a 3-year stretch. He's the all-time winningest coach at South Carolina. They are going to they just recently unveiled a statue in front of the stadium of George Rogers, their only Heisman Trophy winner at South Carolina. There's a spot across from there with a spot for another statue, and I would imagine in the next few years there'll be a statue of Steve Spurrier erected there. I wouldn't be surprised if the field at Williams-Brice Stadium is named after him. His legacy at South Carolina will be the greatest coach ever at South Carolina. That wasn't a huge bar because of their struggles, but he made South Carolina relevant, and the program, it's down right now. It's devoid of talent, but it is a better job now. The South Carolina head football coaching job is better now because of Steve Spurrier. His impact in terms of just the facilities and the image of the program, it is unparalleled. So he will be remembered as the greatest coach ever at South Carolina. And I think part of his overall legacy will be he took a program in South Carolina that was a doormat, that had lost more games than it had won when Steve Spurrier took over in its history. It was under 500, and turned that into one of the premier programs for about a 5-year run in the SEC. They were playing with anybody in that conference.
Wow, good stuff. He made them relevant, no doubt about that. Kevin McCrarey, thanks for your time and insight on certainly one of the most colorful coaches, especially in this day and age when guys are so vanilla with what they say. Mm-hmm. And I was reading some of his past quotes, and he was a character. I'm sure you're going to miss covering him.
Yes, he was for better or worse, and Steve Spurrier, he was an amazing guy to cover. I don't think there'll ever be another guy like that in college football, and I know coaches that he's needled over the years. I was up at Clemson yesterday. Dabo Swinney was the target of a lot of his barbs, and he said, "Look, I did get mad. I'm not going to lie, but then I realized you can't be mad at him. It's just who he is." And he was an intriguing guy. I know Gary Pinkel said that he's going to miss him at the coaches' meetings because Spurrier is a guy you always wanted to sit next to and cut up with. And those two were very close. They always sat next to each other. Spurrier said, "Yeah, I like Coach Pinkel. We always sit next to each other, and they share a lot of things and offensive-minded guys that would share thoughts." So he had a very good relationship with a lot of his peers.
Yeah, good stuff. Kevin, thank you so much. And we appreciate you watching us here. And of course, more of our coverage at MissouriNet.com and SportsTalkSC.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.